That's what I used to do. I always wait till the last minute. Feels so much better to not wait until the last minute. It's like a great feeling when you wake up Friday morning and you're like, yeah, I've got it. Don't say I got it like my kids do. They look at it once, like they'll look at the notes. Yeah. Right ventricle, right, whatever. Yeah, got it. That's it. Jump on the Xbox. Not that kind of I got it. That kind of I got it never works out. So blood flow. Through heart and vessels. I listed it. You got the list. Which ones are oxygenated, which ones are deoxygenated. I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it like that for the for that chapter. So now some questions from digestive system, the stuff I did on Monday. Kind of a two-part question. For the, I see the camera's following me. What's the function? Man, it is freezing in here. My coffee got cold so quick. What's the function of the small intestine? It is the main function, absorption. This is where things get absorbed. So my other question is, how is it adapted for that function? So what I mean is, why can the small intestine absorb stuff and not the esophagus, or the stomach? Like, what is it about the small intestine that it can absorb things? All right, so we say structure fits the function, right? Things are shaped in a way to do whatever their job is. And so this is the last thing I went over, and I kind of went over pretty quick. But the answer to this is villi. Remember, villi are those finger-like projections. And I'm going to put microvilli. Microvilli are like villi of a cell, like individual cells. Cells don't need to be shaped like that, right? So this cell of your intestine might be shaped like Bart Simpson's head. It might be shaped like that. Those are microvilli. This dramatically increases the surface area. So if your job as a cell is to absorb, take in stuff, I got all this area here to take in stuff. So if I were to measure the amount of pen drawing I did here versus here, it's going to be a lot more, right? So microvilli and villi increase the surface area. So when you look at like an intestine, it's like a tube, right? But it's not like like pipe under your sink or something. It's not like if I were to take a cross section of the pipe under your sink and I just look into it, it would look like that. No, they look more like this. They've got all these villi. So if you looked into your intestine, it would be something more like that. So that's villi. And of course, each of these have little microvilli along them. The third thing is circular folds. Because if we take your intestine, and I'm standing here, and so as the liquid is going through my intestine, it would be all down here like the liquid flows in a pipe, right? So, but what about all this? Like this is not getting a chance to absorb. It's only down here because of gravity, right? So our intestines are not like that. They have these circular folds, and it forces the chyme to spiral as it goes, so that all of this. So all of the intestine gets a chance. So the circular folds force chyme they force the chyme in a circular direction, or however you want to word that. You know, it makes it go around. That's your answer. So the function of the small intestine absorb nutrients. How is it adapted to perform that function? Villi, microvilli, and circular folds. So the villi and the microvilli increase the surface area. Circular folds make the chyme go in a circular motion. So that is, I'll ask one of two questions. Either I might ask this question as you see it up here, or I can take this same question and I can substitute the word stomach, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'll ask one of these two questions. So, what is the function of the stomach? How is it adapted for that function? Why? So the stomach liquefies your food, or it turns your food into chyme. It was a bolus. When you chew up the food and swallow it, it's a bolus. Then your stomach, you gotta liquefy it. Right, so my question is, how can the stomach, why can the stomach liquefy your food? Why not your, whatever, your intestine, some other part? What makes the stomach special? Well, one, it makes acid. I'm being lazy here, but I want you to know what HCl is. Hydrochloric acid. And you should start knowing, not for the test, but you should start getting an idea in your head when you see these atoms. You should start associating signs with them, positive or negative, because that's how they are in your body. They're always positive or negative. That's what makes them go. So when you see chlorine, I've got two atoms here, hydrogen and chlorine. When you see chlorine, you associate negative. It's an anion. So if this is going to be negative, that one's going to be positive. And that's what makes the acid. But anyway, hydrochloric acid. Stomach produces hydrochloric acid. So that's going to liquefy food. Your food's dropping into an acid bath. Number two, and I didn't really say this, I didn't say this in the last lecture, but it is in the notes. There is a third layer of muscle in your, smooth muscle in your stomach. So your whole GI tract has two layers of smooth muscle, except your stomach, it's got a third one. So it's the diagonal or oblique. So third layer of smooth muscle. I'm just going to put it, you can say diagonal or you can say oblique, it's the same thing. So remember, this is smooth muscle. Smooth muscle is in our organs. You don't have control of them. Smooth muscle, involuntary. There's smooth muscle in our intestine, in our esophagus, also our stomach, but in your stomach you have longitudinal, circular, just like the rest of our GI tract, but there's a third oblique layer because your stomach is really pushing that food around. So you think about it, the food drops into an acid bath, then your stomach is like just forcing it around. So you're dropping the food into acid and you're moving it around a lot, and that physically breaks up the food. So that's your answer to that question. I'm going to ask this. That's my only question I've got. So I'm going to play my card. I'll ask this, or I'm going to ask the same question but about small intestine. Let me erase the answer. Enzymes. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one because it's spellings. And so I'll list the ones I want you to know, and I guess you got to memorize them. And you're going to see them again, but first one, amylase. That breaks up starch. The name for starch is amylose. Not that that matters, but amylase breaks up starch. Where is it made? Two places, saliva and pancreas. So your mouth makes it. When you start eating a piece of bread, your amylase is actually going and breaking up, it's starting to break up the starch before you even swallow it. If you were to eat, like chew on bread, this only works for like little kids, but you chew on bread and then you store it in your cheek for like 20 minutes, right? And then taste it again, it tastes sweeter. I know it's kind of disgusting, but it's not, because a lot of that starch has already changed. It's not starch anymore, it's maltose. It's like a simpler, sweeter sugar. So amylase, lipase, so another one with ASE. Lipase for lipids. Now the rest of these are for proteins. So, oh, yeah, I see what I'm doing here. That's confusing. So lipase made by your pancreas. It is made in a couple of other places, but pancreas. Lipids, that's a substrate. I'm not listing the substrate here. Substrate meaning what does the enzyme work on? I'm not listing them, but instead I'm listing where they're made. But lipase for lipid, amylase for starch. The rest of them that I'm going to list are going to be for proteins. Pepsin, stomach. Trypsin, pancreas. I'm debating how many to list. Elastase. If you read up on the stuff for quiz 4, that's one of the 3 fibers: elastic fibers, collagen fibers, so reticular fibers. I'm going to put one more. Amino. Put a long one. I got to move so you can see it. Aminopeptidase. That's actually an easier word than other words. If you notice up here, there are 4 of these that end with ASE. So if it ends with ASE, it's an enzyme. So I know that's an enzyme. Then I've got another little part of the word here, peptide. Whenever I see the word peptide in a word, that's going to tell me proteins. So it's an enzyme that deals with proteins. Amino, that's going back to like the beginning of the semester when we talked about functional groups, amino, carboxyl. There's another one called carboxypeptidase. So it's an enzyme that works on proteins and it rips off the amino group off the proteins. But my point was, as you get into biology or anatomy, don't run away from the big words. The big words are your friend because they give you the answer. Little words, that pepsin, that's what sucks. There's no clue here. You're probably thinking Pepsid AC, and then I don't know. All right, I'm gonna erase this. It's in one of the slides. Okay, so 6. All right, those 6. I think you can handle that. I know it's a lot. But you're gonna see a lot of these again. Definitely you're gonna see these too. You see that. I don't know. You see it all again. What's the function of the epiglottis? What do I got here? About like, there's a question, there's one, there's that 4th question. Epiglottis. That's a little one. Small question, I'll just say what's the function of the epiglottis? It forces the food down your esophagus. You don't have to get technical about it. Oh, keeps the food out of your windpipe. Good. It's fine. It's part of your larynx, your voice box. You can feel your Adam's apple, and when you swallow, if you put your finger here and swallow, you feel that it moves up. The whole larynx moves up. So like when it moves up, it shuts that epiglottis over it. Anyway, what does the epiglottis do? What's the small intestines do? No, not small. Large. What's the function of the large intestine? Get that water back. Reclaim water. Oh, accessory organs. So there's some other questions. Then I might want to know what does bile do? Remember the liver makes bile? Bile. I don't even know how to spell the word. takes your lipids, your fat that you ate, and it makes it into smaller drops of fat so that lipase can go and break it down. Then the rest of the questions, see the camera's not following me. The rest of the questions are going to have to do with human tissues. So, the 4 tissues, obviously. So let me erase this. So I can write some other stuff. And you'll have taken a multiple choice test quiz on this already, so it's just a different version. I'll just make them like essay or short answer version. So this is something I would typically ask. Just tell me about it. You'll know it in about a week. Even if it's not with me, you're going to get into Mr. Waddell's class. That's week 1, epithelial tissue. So epithelial tissue lines organs and covers surfaces. I have it in the video. It's like the same stuff that's in the video. Lines organs, covers surfaces. The cells are very close together. So for tissues, since we're like on the house analogy, epithelial tissue is like apartments. Connective tissue is like out in the country, down the road. That's country for me. That's down the road. The houses are further apart. There's space in between them. So connective tissue has spaces in between the cells. Epithelial tissue, no. Think about your skin. There's no space in between these cells. They're right up on each other. In fact, not only are they up on each other, but they're all connected to each other. So epithelial tissue, lines organs, cover surfaces, they have different shapes. Remember, it's the flat shape is squamous, and then the cube shape, the box shape, and then you have the column shape. I guarantee you some people are going to watch this lecture. Well, quickly, they're just going to fast forward through it all. And this will be what they put on the test. And if I were to take that test, and I do it sometimes, and I ask them, what does that mean? Why did you draw this thing? You put it on there? Like, well, why did I put it on there? What does this mean? But anyway, shapes. Then, it could be one layer or more than one layer. Simple versus stratified. Like your skin, it's not one layer, right? If you were to think, is my skin one layer of cells or more than one layer of cells? It's not one layer, so definitely not, right? So it's got to be stratified. And then we'll just guess about the shape. So many, many layers of cells, hundreds. What would be a good shape if you were just to guess? And we're guessing, so there's no wrong answer. Flat. Stratified, squamous. That's what we call the skin. Stratified, squamous, epithelial tissue. So you need to know what it is, what are the shapes, the 2 layers, simple versus stratified. I'm not going to ask you about pseudo-stratified. You need to know connective tissue. What is connective tissue? What are types of connective tissue? Connective tissue is very diverse. Bone is considered connective tissue, so is blood. So that's weird, right? One's like totally solid and one's totally liquid. And then in between that would be cartilage. So those are like different types of tissue, right? Like the cartilage in your ear versus your blood versus your hard bone. Like, so what do they have in common? What they have in common is that their cells are, hey, this is a good, if you haven't taken quiz 4 yet, sparse cells. Like they're not together, they're spread out. In an extracellular matrix. So it's a sparse cell population scattered through, I'm making sure I have the camera, scattered through an extracellular matrix. What does that mean? Matrix is just stuff. Just substitute the word stuff. Extracellular, outside cells. So look at our blood cells. They're floating in stuff. In the case of our blood, stuff has a name, plasma. So all those cells are floating in plasma. That's the extracellular matrix. Bone. Those cells are right, you have bone cells. They're not next to each other. There's space in between them. But there's like stuff around them, extracellular matrix. What's all that stuff that's around the bone cells? It's calcium. Calcium, phosphorus, it's minerals. So there's different stuff that they're in, but they're not like apartments. They're not all right up next to each other. There's space in between them. That's why we call them connective tissue. The word connective, get the word connecting out of your mind. I don't know why they do that. Like, yeah, connective tissue can do some connecting, but I don't know. It's a confusing word. Don't think of it that way. Dense? No. Let me put this one. Adipose, fat. Fat is connective tissue. I gave you something else. What we do is we put things in connective tissue when we don't know what to do with them. So you ask yourself, is it epithelial tissue? No. Blood's not epithelial tissue. It's not lining anything. It is the thing, right? It's not, blood's not your skin, right? Is it nervous tissue? Where is nervous tissue? Your brain, your spinal cord, that's nervous tissue. So it's not nervous, and it's not muscle. Those are our 3 other tissues. Is it muscle? Is it brain? Is it covering or lining organs? If we can't say yes to that, then we throw it in with connective tissue. So fat, is that your brain? No. Is it muscle? Definitely not. Is it lining anything? Is it covering anything? No. It's just there. Just sitting there. Okay, connective tissue. If I can throw it in, connective tissue. So these are all types of connective tissue. I'll give you one more to make it 5. This is a test question. Dense. For example, tendons, ligaments, those are considered dense connective tissue. If you ever got a piece of that in like meat that you're eating, you chew it all day and it's not, can't do anything with it. So I want you to know what connective tissue is. I might say, give some 3, 4, 5 examples of connective tissue. So that'll be a question. I will probably ask you about the fibers. There's 3 fibers in connective tissue. Elastic, and you know what that does already. It makes things elastic. That's why when you get old, your face is all wrinkled up. Elastic fibers Your body's not making them anymore. Collagen. That's what people think it is. Collagen makes things strong. I mean, yeah, we use it to fill lips or whatever, but it's really to give things strength, right? So inside of our bone, we have lots of collagen to make it strong. Collagen in blood? No, it's liquid. We don't need to make it strong. There's no collagen there. Is there elastic? No, blood's liquid. Is there elastic in bone? No. Bone doesn't bend. Cartilage, yeah, right? The ear goes back to where it was. Definitely elastic. Collagen, yeah. Think about the shit people put in their ears. They make these huge holes, right? And it doesn't break. So definitely collagen. Fat, just think about it. It's fat. You might think fat's elastic, right? But no, it's not strong. It's just fat, right? So anyway, one more fiber, reticular. So you need to know what these fibers do. Elastic makes things elastic. Hope you guys can see that. I'm trying to go down, see if the camera follows me down. Elastic makes things elastic. Collagen makes things strong, but not brittle. Reticular joins one tissue to another tissue. For example, my nose. I've got bone up here, I've got cartilage here, I've got fat here, I've got skin here, there's some muscle here. I've got like 5 different types of tissues going on there, right? And so there's lots of reticular fibers. How do I join the bone to the cartilage? How do I join all that to the skin? That's the answer, reticular fibers. That's how we join different types of tissues together. So yeah, know that, the 3 fibers. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Know the 3 types of muscle. And they are skeletal muscle, which is also called striated. Skeletal, striated. Right now, all this I'm doing, I'm moving my skeletal muscle. I'm in control of it. It's voluntary. So, skeletal, smooth. We already talked about smooth. It lines our organs, not voluntary. Lastly, cardiac. That's your heart. Your heart has a special muscle because it's different. It's got to all contract at once, right? Like I'm lifting this whatever, right? So I'm using my bicep to bring this toward me. I'm not using all my bicep muscle. Even someone like me, I'm only using 90%. It's a full can. So your heart can't do that. I'm not using all my muscle cells. I'm only using some because this is not heavy. If I want to lift like a table, yeah, I got to use all of them. Your heart doesn't have that choice. It contracts or you die. So the 2 atria contract, then the 2 ventricles contract. Those cells go at 100%. There's no other option, 100%. So cardiac cells, because I might ask you a difference, like give me 2 ways that skeletal muscle is different from cardiac. Well, one way we already know, skeletal muscle is voluntary. Heart muscle, you have no control over it, it's involuntary. Cardiac muscle has something called intercalated disc. They allow that electrical impulse, we call it an action potential, to go from one cell to another cell really quick, because all those cells have to work together. They all got to contract at once. You'll learn more about this next in AP1. So I might ask you how these are different. These 2 are not voluntary, right? They're involuntary. This one's voluntary. So maybe I can get 2 questions out of that. That's a question. I can get like 2 or 3 questions out of this. if I ask any question about nervous system, I will say, what is the functional unit of nervous tissue? I think I asked that in the multiple choice quiz number 4. So, what is the functional unit of nervous tissue? You know what it is? I'm going to write it, but it's a neuron. So nervous tissue is made up of neurons. 3 parts to a neuron. I might ask about that in the test you're taking, the online one. I can't remember. 3 parts to a neuron. All this is in the video, everything that I've written here. Axon, dendrite, and cell body. All right, that's it. That's a lot, I know. All this on here is stuff that I ask probably on the multiple choice, quiz 4, just in a different way. I'm doing it as multiple choice. But I'm going to ask the same types of stuff, same material, Friday. So you've got all the questions. Between, this whole lecture, that's your questions. Just, do you want to watch do you want to watch it again, or do you want to write these questions down and prepare for it or not? That's it. There's no reason not to get 100 on this. There really isn't. There's no reason not to get 100 on quiz 4 as well, because that's one chapter. It's just on, I know it's a lot of shit, but you can do it. So you could end this semester with 200s. That'll really help you. And of course the discussions, right? If you're missing any discussions, and even if they're closed, just ask me to open it, right? That's supposed to be free points. Like, I was just giving you guys 20% of your grade. I don't know why people haven't done it. So many people haven't done it. It's like, it's a freebie, right? So anyway, any questions? All right, let me stop. I'm going to stop recording. If you guys don't have any questions.
Is discussion 4 up yet?
Yeah, it should be up. I put it up like a week ago.